Welcome back to the F1 show in the week when we are hoping to get the cost cap regulations all approved by the World Motorsport Council. Just for those who might not be aware of what's been going on, it looks like the teams have roughly agreed to a budget cap of 145 million US for 2021, sliding down to 140 million for 2022, and then for the next 3 years, 135 million. On top of that, there'll be limited aero development for the most successful teams, a sliding scale of wind tunnel and CFD data. The manufacturers have agreed a notional value for customer parts. They'll be racing the 2020 car in 2022, and the format of the race weekends could change to cram as many in as we can. So the possibility of 2-day race weekends going on from here on in. It's a lot to take in. Guenther Steiner, the team principal of Haas, joins us now. From what we've been discussing, Guenther, it looks like you guys may be aligned on this, and there is a way forward now.
Yeah, it looks like that there was a lot of discussions, as you know, going on the last 2 months about this. So I think it was discussed back and forward, and everybody got his little bet point as well. So I think, and I hope that everybody voted for it. I don't have the final vote, but you have not seen the regulation, but you know as much as we know. So I think you're pretty good informed here. But I would say this week we will have the news, and hopefully everything goes through the vote. And this will make the sport more equal, which for a long time we have asked for, or the smaller teams or the midfield teams have asked for. It will take a few years until we get there, because obviously with the more resources, the big teams still have got a little bit of an advantage. But I think it's very good for the sport going forward.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Do you think that the top three teams have acted fairly selflessly here? Because, for them, they've had to cede some ground, but for the good of the sport, it seems that they've done that. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I would say it's still selfish, because if this wouldn't have happened, I think some of the small teams would have gone, and that would not help the big teams as well. So I think it's a fair compromise. They realize that, and they're honest about it, and made some cuttings as far as they could go, and there the compromise came out. But I think for sure that they are aware of that without the smaller teams there is no sport.
Guenther, hello. Do you think, more than at least half the grid is controlled by maverick billionaires or maverick very rich men like Gene Haas, who you work with and for? Are these changes enough to keep them engaged, to let them believe they can win, because they're people who are used to winning? And might it attract new teams into Formula One? Because I see the drawbridge up at the moment. We're on an island, and I don't see too many teams knocking on the door, or manufacturers indeed, trying to join us. So could this open the door and also keep people engaged who are already there?
I think the proof is in the pudding, as you know, and when we get to sign the new Concord agreement for the next 5 years, then we will see if this people, the billionaires, will stay in the sport. I would say it's if they stayed before, it's a lot more interesting now. For sure, we need to push more that we can make this a break-even business at least going forward, and that's one of my jobs to do for Mr. Haas. Trying to get this to a point where his investment is smaller. For teams coming in, there is always, when a budget cap is discussed, there's always some people out there which they think they can make money with it. It's still a very expensive sport. You still need to invest a lot of money to get somewhere. And manufacturers, I hope they see it. And I think what the good thing is for the manufacturers, if a board of directors see that there is a cap, they know how much they go spend as a maximum. It's not an open. You start with one number, and after 5 years, this number has tripled or quadrupled what you said a few years before. So now there is a stake in the ground saying this is the maximum you're allowed to spend by regulation. So do we want to do this or not? But it's pretty clear cut now. While before there was always, how long is a piece of string? How much you want to invest? So I think it's a good thing, and hopefully we get big corporates or car manufacturers would be best to invest in Formula One.
Guenther, I'm interested to understand the dynamics in these meetings, because you've got all the team bosses in different parts of the world, but everyone's got a different background. You've got engineers like yourself or Andreas or Mattia, and you've got people like Toto and Claire Williams, the commercial background. You've got Christian and Frederick Vasseur have run junior Formula teams. You're all coming at it from a different history. what's the dynamic like in that room or on this conference call? Are you all playing to those strengths and trying to outfox each other with knowledge on your subject?
I think these different things makes it interesting in these meetings, as you mentioned. Where sometimes you can see everybody has got his soft spot for something. So I wouldn't say outfox at some stage here. Nobody wanted to outfox anybody. Everybody's just trying to give the best from where he comes from or where he knows most. So I think it was a very educated and fair discussions all the way along, and the FIA put a lot of effort in as well. I must say they worked hard to get all the compromises done, which after a while I think it's tough work because we are really down to the nitty gritty, and they for sure have not got the amount of people we have got behind us. So I think they did a good job. FIA did a good job to try to stay impartial and look for the great thing of Formula One, so the greater picture. So I think it was good, but there is sometimes a little bit of play where you can see where it comes from. And as you well noted, everybody comes with his expertise into this meeting and tries to be the smartest guy in the room on some matter.
Guenther, we know you're a man that keeps his ear to the ground. Were you anticipating Sebastian Vettel moving on from Ferrari? Had you picked that one? Had he phoned you up and said, Guenther, I'm leaving?
No, he hasn't phoned me up. I got a few days before from somebody else who maybe took his place, a little note, So I was, something is going on here, but I didn't anticipate it to be done this quick. I mean, for sure, everybody knew, you guys knew, whoever watches F1 is interested in, so that his contract comes to an end, and maybe Ferrari is making some changes. I didn't expect it to come this early in the season, but it came, and I hope he finds a place in another team.
Would you, Guenther, approach him now and say, what are you looking for? Where you're heading? I mean, I remember back in the day, Ron Dennis used to have about 14 of us on the go at anyone, and all thinking we had a chance of a McLaren drive, so he could control the market and know exactly who was going where and what was going on. But will you dive in and try to get involved in this?
If I would have your amount of money, yes, Martin, I will do it, but I cannot afford it. So, no, I think Sebastian, being a four-time world champion, he doesn't want to go to the midfield, I would say, anymore. And you had a successful career, Martin, and that is what you don't want to do, to take too many risks. So I mean, I've got a good relationship with him, but I haven't phoned him up and offered him a seat. So I think somebody else with a lot deeper pockets than me will do that.
But Guenther, just to follow up on what Martin was saying, I mean, let's say Sebastian doesn't end up at Renault and doesn't end up in Formula One with the race seat. You guys had a difficult car in 2019, lots of inconsistencies. Do you think there's some thought of, hang on a second, maybe we could get him to do a day to test the car, get his opinion, because he's very experienced. He's won a lot. He's driven some great cars. Just, try and do a deal with him to come and do a test day somewhere in between. Would that be beneficial, maybe?
Absolutely. I mean, it would be fantastic to do this. But then again, just sitting in after 6 months, he was out of a car in a car, and then make a decision would be very difficult. And also, what we have got going is there will be very, very few test days next year. So it's very difficult. But for example, for sure, but testing like the 22 car, that hybrid car we are building for next year to go testing with the big wheels, and would be fantastic. But I think it's difficult to do these things, just jumping in and get an opinion about it. And I think he will be reluctant to do that as well, because what does it do for him? Not a lot. I think he's 4 times world champion, drove, 10, 15 years in Formula One, and has done it all and won it all. So why would he do that?
Guenther, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks very much. We appreciate it. We'll leave you to get back to work as everyone heads towards Austria and the weekend of July the 3rd and the 5th. That's when F1 is planning to get going.